This is a conventional base built by a player. This is considered a typical defense that is made by many players. However, there is a flaw. One flaw that can explain why most defenses don't survive. A problem that can explain why so many bases can get destroyed in less than 30 seconds after the initial attack. This base has no natural defenses. What you have to know about the base shown here is that it is not easily defendable due to the lack of natural defenses. And in order to defend such a base defenses are not enough to keep the base alive. It requires manpower, which means using tanks, infantries, and even planes to even defend it feasibly. What if we want to allocate these manpower to become strike groups? What if we wanted a feasible offensive manpower? In this episode of How to Conquerors, where is the best place to put your base on the Conquerors 3? So on every game, we start out with the command center, and what we always have next to the command center is an energy crystal, and that energy crystal is your income source for maintaining your base. So we don't want to have a base where there will be no income source close to it. And at this moment, most players should know that they don't want to have a base too far from its income source. So any income sources will always drag bases close to it, no matter what. Getting the income out of the way, the question comes, what serves as a natural defense against an enemy? One of the natural defenses are mountains. Attacking such a place can require air transports, which can be very expensive as there may not be a path to a higher height, and air transportation cannot carry tanks. Some players can use construction yards and build bunkers at a higher height to abuse such a garrison mechanic to transport tanks to a higher level. However, doing so can be difficult for most players, and this is the reason why so many experienced players, including me, prefer to put bases on higher grounds to take advantage over the natural defenses, and most of the time never defend the mountain base with any units. However, some mountains may not have energy crystals, so mountain areas can either drag bases closer or farther from it. It just depends on the circumstance. Another natural defense that is very common among the players is water. No land units can cross the water without a transportation via air or sea, and indeed it is a challenge to get from one space to another and then build a base to threaten their defenses. Not to mention, oil can provide the most efficient and reliable income to the players, as building it costs only $35. So water will definitely drag players' base closer to it. These are just the natural defenses, and those are just the primary defenses. There's just one secondary defense, and this one also involves geography, which is the bottlenecking land. When no air units can cross the high mountainous area to bypass one single way into the base, then the bottleneck land can serve as a natural defense, only if it is well defended. While the bottleneck lands don't show up too often on every map, this may not provide the best defense. It may push the enemies away from the bottleneck land. However, enemies will try to find a way to covert the operations and bypass the bottleneck. Unfortunately, for 90% of the time, players move their bases closer to the bottlenecking lands and make a mistake on overexpanding their defenses on the bottleneck. Bottlenecking lands include, but not limited to, ramps to the mountains and narrow gorges. If all the above doesn't apply to the map or situation, then manpower is your last chance of survival. All players should always use manpower as their last resort defense. So with all the knowledge of the defenses, here are some of the examples of the best locations to place your bases on Conquerors 3. In Fantasy 2, the best location to place your base would be on the middle of the mountains on each side. Because it is well defended, no ground units are able to get up the height unless either air transportation or construction yards with bunkers are used. It has 4 energy crystals close to the mountains, and is also well defended by the bottlenecking land, which is close to the water, making it one of the most convenient fortress. In the continent map, the best place would be on the mountains near either of the highest height energy crystal. While there is a way up, there are bottleneck lands available which are useful for setting down landmines. Although some people may think the best place to build a base would be on one of these islands, the islands only have 1 energy crystal, which can make it hard for players to maintain a huge army and base, even when you have 4 oil rigs. Plus, the islands doesn't have the landmass to sustain such a base. Bases on islands may serve as a naval port, but having at least a base in the mainland is essential. In Desert vs. Grass map, the best location would be on the mountains of either side of the mainland. Since there are no ramps on the mainland to the mountains can serve as a good defense and offensive point for your base. It is also somewhat close to the water, giving you potential access to opening a naval port. If you want a naval port to block off your enemies from reaching your territory, then 4 of these lands are where you want to put your naval ports. However, this is not even close to the best. If you want to see the best location to build a base, then it would be at the 2 island map. But where specifically? The best location to build a base in the Conquerors 3 would specifically be right here. The energy crystal is close to mountains and also very close to the body of water, making your base expandable towards the naval port with ease. There's no better place than this specific location where you can build a base, as it's also expandable through the mountains and to the beaches, making it the most convenient place to build a base in Conquerors 3. It's easy to landlock this specific area. However, the island that this energy crystal stands on has the longest coastline in Conquerors 3, making it the hardest to landlock. If you want to see the worst map to build bases, then it's good to check out the mansion map. Literally anywhere can be a base, and there is not one single natural defense that can defend our base. The only way to defend your base is using manpower. There are no mountains, no water, and no buffer state or bottlenecking lands to fend off the invaders, and there are just less income sources, virtually making both sides vulnerable to an attack. In the end, income sources is a friend of flat terrain, and flat terrain is the enemy of the players. There are a few noticeable